Okay, so think about, this is our, what would this x minus 2 be if we think about what we just did with our warm-up? The divisor, okay? So x goes into x cubed how many times? X squared times. Okay? And then they multiplied to get the next term. Then they subtracted. They're doing the same process that we just did with our 729. Okay? So let's look over here at the synthetic division. Question 1. These are the same exact problem. All right? Doesn't that one look nicer? Not as much work. Number 1. Where does the 1, 3, negative 5, and 8 come from? What does it match to on the left? The coefficients of the quotient, the divisor, the remainder, the what? The dividend, okay? The dividend. See, the coefficients? 1, 3, negative 5, negative 8. So these are the coefficients of the dividend. For question 1. All right. Question 2. How do we get the number that goes in this little L shape? This one. It's actually not the remainder, and I apologize that these are the same number, but look over here. It comes from the divisor. So if this says x minus 2, and we set the divisor to 0, what would x equal? 2. So when we take the factor x minus 2, set it to 0, and solve from the divisor. It's from the divisor. It is. Okay. Okay, now, question 3. What does the 2 in the box mean? Somebody had said it earlier, I think. The remainder. It's the remainder. So this part here is the remainder. Question 3. Let me scroll down here. It's the remainder. It's this number, what's left over. Okay. What does the 1, 5, and 5 tell us? It's the quotient. Yes, it's the quotient. It's the coefficients of the quotient. Because later on this week, if we divide, we can figure out the zeros of a really big polynomial. If it doesn't factor, then no. Okay, coefficient of the quotient, the answer, right? When will this work? Always. As long as there's one, well, we'll get to that later, but it will always work. It would always work when the divisor is linear. Okay. If we wanted to divide by x squared plus 3 or something like that, we cannot use synthetic division. If we wanted to divide by x cubed, I can't use synthetic division. I can only do synthetic division when the divisor is linear, which means that the x has an exponent of 1. Okay? That would be the only the pitfall. All right? So we're going to look at this synthetic division, and we're going to do one so that we can get the process down. And today all we're doing is working on just the algorithm. We'll worry about why we would need to do it later. Okay? So on the either at the bottom or on the back of your sheet. Oh, close this part out. We're just going to do one problem to get the process down of the synthetic division. Okay? All right, so if we want to do synthetic division, we're going to look at the divisor. Which one of these do you think is the divisor? You have to write it down. We're only doing the one example, so yeah, you can write it down. So if x plus 1 equals 0, x would need to equal negative 1. So we're going to actually be doing negative 1 over here in the box. Then we're going to write the coefficients of the dividend. Which one's the dividend? Yeah, the big one, okay. So we're going to write all the coefficients. So 5, 7, negative 1, negative 3. Remember to write stuff down. All right, and this is the fun part. Granted, we could do long division like you see on the top of your paper, but it's like really, really long and strenuous, okay? So we're going to do synthetic division. Here's what we did. We're going to bring down the first number. Bring down the first number. Then we're going to multiply. 5 times negative 1 is, okay, just checking. Then we're going to add. March 3rd, 2030 at 2 p.m.
Eastern 2 p.m., yeah.
Okay?
Eastern time or Pacific?
We'll go with PM. You asked me when, so I'm trying to give you a date and time. 2030. Okay. You want to know when in the future you're going to use it, right? In 2030. Yeah, exactly. That's when you're going to do it. All right. Now we're going to multiply again. We're going to just keep repeating these little steps. So 2 times negative 1. Add. Then we're going to multiply. And then add. Okay? Now the trick is if you can get that little process down, to get the answer, we want to put our x's back in. Okay? All right. What's wrong?
Why are you squaring the last
I didn't square anything.
square? Not square, actually.
I added.
No, you put the square.
Because that's what we did over here.
Oh, is it the
For the remainder. Uh-huh. Yeah. The last number, guys. Remember the last number in the box is the remainder. Shh, listen, please. This is your remainder.
Up here.
Okay. This is the remainder. So if I want to write the solution, it's going to be, this starts out as a cubic. They ain't looking for you. Just look up here. If it's cubic, you're going to be depressed by 1 degree. So this is now going to be squared. So 5x squared plus 2x minus 3 with a remainder of 0. We don't have to write it. Okay? How do I know it's squared? Because the dividend starts as 3, I get depressed by 1 degree, 2. If this had started out as a degree of 4, then this answer would have been cubic. Okay? This is from the quotient. Terms? If it starts 3, then this is now 2. Goes down by 1 degree every time. The 0 is the remainder, so I don't have to write down the remainder of 0. Yeah, you could write, technically you could write 0 over x plus 1 if you wanted to. Then it would be 3 over x plus 1. No, I mean, you would just write it out here on the side. It's kind of like saying 145.8. Well, I can't write 0.8 right at the end. If it's 0, you can just ignore it. Okay? All right. Okay, we're going to stop right there. We're going to do a couple of EOC questions. So if you would please get out your card.